Hey, house guests, welcome to today's Big Brother 23 updates and spoilers. What's going on? Yes, I do try to browse through the chat before we start just to see how everybody's doing. But hey, guys, welcome. Hope you're all having a great Wednesday so far. Our house guests of the day are Roy Rogers and Donna Stewart. Thank you both so much for the support. We could not do this without you, and we appreciate it so much. So thank you again. And if you guys want to be house guests of the day, check out our Patreon link in the info box below. It's only $1 for a holla. Great bargain. All right. I also want to thank yesterday's super chatters before we get started. Jefferson Tucker, Eric N., Alex Garza, Noni KOK, Shane Shaji, AR Chan 1785, Shane Shaji again, The Real VB, Gail Murphy Comedy, Lisa, Janet Tucker 68, and Flower Power Resists. Thank you all so much for the super chats. It's a great way to support this channel and keep us making these spoilers and these recap videos. So thank you again. Oh, Trisha C, thank you so much for the super chat. I like that sticker. That's fun. So I believe today is actually the halfway point of the season. Can you believe it? I feel like we've been watching for years already. Now, this has been a fun season for sure. But it has been a lot at times. It has tested me. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but it's been an endurance competition at times. But I am really enjoying it. Nate Swisher, thank you for the super chat. And he asks, who do you think is the best shot at winning the game this season? I would say at this point, the front runners to me are Xavier and Tiffany. I think they both have the best chance of winning. I think Hannah could maybe sneak in there. We'll see. Outside the cookout, I think if DX was able to make it to the end, he'd have a great case talking to that jury, but I feel like he's going to have to win out to get there. But you never know. It could happen. But let's get started. So when we left off yesterday, Brittany and Big D up on the block. And Brittany is Kylan's target this week. We know this. We notice. Claire has been trying to flip the vote to e-vote Big D because she's worried Big D is going to get dragged to the end like a goat. He's the ultimate pawn. But DX is also considering keeping Brittany because she would be a target in front of him. And he's like, you know what? Chances are I'm probably going to be up on the block at some point, right? So he would rather be nominated next to Brittany than next to Big D because he would actually be able to make a case against Brittany. So Tiffany and Hannah, they're not feeling this vote flip, obviously, because they want to stay loyal to the cookout. So they are trying to subtly squash this vote flip without causing alarm about why they're doing it. So they've been saying like, oh, we're going to lose Kylan if we go against his wishes. He's the HOH this week. They don't care. At this point, they're done with Kylan. They don't care if they're going against him. So the cookout doesn't seem to be budging on their plan so far to get to the final 6 together. They're still planning on taking Brittany out this week. And Derek X, they're trying to plan out their next targets. And Derek X is definitely emerging as one of their top targets for next week, depending on who you talk to. But he's a strong competitor. He's close to figuring out the cookout. And he's planning and been very vocal about going for the coin flip twist to take over the HOH anonymously in 2 weeks. So cookout's not feeling too great about that. There was also some discussion about Claire being a potential target for next week, because she is also picking up on like, wow, we're down to basically just like duos in the house. It's so weird. Like, I wonder what's going on here. But she's close to figuring out the cookout. So she's also a top target. So Tiffany checks in with Kai in the HOH room. And Tiffany says, we probably have to send Claire home next week. I guess Tiffany would prefer to keep DX than Claire. Because let's face it, DX wins a lot more competitions than Claire. And I think also Tiffany secretly may want DX to take a shot at somebody like Kylan or Xavier. So then she wouldn't have to worry about them. She wouldn't have to deal with them later in the game. But anyway, Tiffany says Claire is getting very wise. And she says, I know that you and Xavier want to send Derek X home, but we're probably going to have to wait on that. Because if we send DX home, we're going to have 3 girls left outside of the cookout. Sarah Beth, Claire, and Alyssa. And she says they're not going to target each other. They're going to go after us in the cookout. So she says DX is a shield for us. You and Xavier are just going to have to keep winning. You know, no big deal. Just keep winning. So Tiffany says that Derek X is going to come to Kyland and talk to him about potentially keeping Brittney this week. She says DX and Claire have been talking more, and they both want Big D to go this week. So she says that Claire is the one that's been convincing Derek X to flip, which I think is true. She was definitely initiating that. She says Claire is more dangerous, and that's why she's got to go next week. DX is kind of aloof. Claire is more aware. She says Claire has been bringing valid points to DX's attention, and that's dangerous. Tiffany wants to make sure that she is the one that's influencing DX and his decisions. So Tiffany says she tried to use the argument on them that they would lose Kyland if they went against his wishes and voted to keep Brittney. But DX and Claire don't really care about that at this point. Uh-oh. So then Brittney and Kyland, oh my God. They had a long conversation in the HOH room. So just to give you some context going into this, the night before, Kyland basically threatened Brittney's game because he was telling her, if you're going to campaign against me, I'm going to campaign against you. And people are going to listen to me because I'm the HOH. So Kyland tells Brittney at this moment, I don't feel a need or a desire to campaign either way. I would like to stay neutral. He knows the votes are there for Brittney to go. He doesn't have to be doing all this. But Brittney says she feels like she's in a weird situation because Big D is not really campaigning, but she's being told that she has to. So what's going on here? And she tells Kyland, my campaign does not include you. I'm not like talking against you. But she says it just includes things that would make me a viable person to stay. She says my campaign changes depending on who I'm talking to. She also says I'm not campaigning against Big D. I'm just telling people what I have to offer. So Brittney says she doesn't want any bad blood between her and Kyland if she stays in the house. So then the possibility of a tied vote comes up because it could happen. You never know. And Kyland saying, oh, I don't know what I would do yet. I didn't decide. I didn't think about it. Come on. So then Kyland tells Brittney, if my name does come up during your campaigning, just be sure that the info that you're sharing is true and that it won't get back to me. Oof, Kyland. Kyland looks so bad this week. Ah! So I'm really curious what Kyland's going to be like after this HOH reign is over. But they discuss the deal that Brittney's been telling everybody that they shook on. And Kyland's telling Brittney, you must have misunderstood that whole thing, because he basically says the deal would have been in play if he had kept her off the block, which I have to agree with Kyland here. I don't recall him being like, yes, I'm absolutely 100% not putting you up. The deal is in play. I feel like I've said this so many times. I heard him be like, those are really great points. Like, sounds like a great deal. But he didn't actually confirm that they were going through with it. And also, his action in the deal would have been first. Like, if I don't put you up on the block, then you don't put me up for 2 weeks. So it was dependent on him not putting her up. You know what I mean? So Brittney says, all right, I won't use that in my campaign because I don't want you to campaign against me. Okay. So Brittney says she's hoping that Kyland will stay neutral for the rest of the week. Now, I just want to clarify too, just because I'm saying that I feel like Kyland is correct in saying that it wasn't a legit deal, I am not supporting the way that he has been talking to Brittney this week, because that has been atrocious. But anyway, that's all we really need to know from that conversation. So then Claire was chatting with Alyssa in the gym, and Alyssa says, it's pretty clear everyone's voting Brittney out, right? Are you playing this week? She says, I don't see Big D ever going home. Maybe I should think about that. She says that's scary because if it's like a final three situation, people are going to pick Big D over us. So that's not great for us. Claire says she's also worried that the guys are not going to want to go to the end with a woman because they seem to be terrified that all the women in the jury will just automatically vote for a woman in the final two, which I don't believe is the case. But anyway, Alyssa says she's annoyed that Brittany is using similar campaign points that Christian was using last week. I'll be your shield, I'll be your weapon. So she's definitely bitter about that. She's like, why did Brittany not listen to Christian's campaign last week? And now she's expecting me to keep her when I'm making the same, when she's making the same exact arguments. So Claire brings up, we've got no idea what Big D would do if he won HOH. We know the shot that Brittany would take. Clearly, she would target Kyland. And Alyssa's like, oh, crap. Big D would possibly put me up on the block because he's pissed at me that I didn't use the POV on him. He sure is. So Claire says Brittany also has a higher chance of winning an HOH competition and taking that shot at Kyland and Sarah Beth. Plus, if Brittany's still here, Kyland is going to target her before coming after us. So Alyssa's like, wow, I was thinking that it was clear as day that Brittany had to go before, but now I'm seeing both sides of it. Oh, so Alyssa says she's going to talk about it with Xavier. Okay, she does. And she chats with Xavier in the coral bedroom. And Alyssa says, Claire and Tiff, they're contemplating keeping Brittany this week. And Xavier's like, oh. And Alyssa's like, no, hear me out. Just hear me out. So she shares the points that Claire was making. No one's picking you in the final three if Big D is there. We have no idea what Big D would do if he won HOH. He could be putting up me and or you. But we know exactly what Brittany would do. So then Sarah Beth comes in. And Alyssa's like, oh, we're just trying to make sure like everyone's on the same page here. And Sarah Beth says, yeah, well, everybody's on board still to vote out Brittany. I don't know about everyone. So Sarah Beth says, I don't think anyone is interested in keeping Brittany this week. I mean, some people are. So Xavier and Sarah Beth agree. Yes, it is concerning that Big D appears to be the ultimate pawn at this point, that anybody who goes up against him is going to go. But they agree we still have time to take him out. We're at the final, 11 right now? So we don't need to do this right now, but Brittany has to go this week. Okay, so then Brittany checks in with Tiffany and Azza after her marathon conversation with Kyland. And Brittany says, Kai and I talked about the deal, and we clearly remember it in two very different ways. She says America knows what was said. I mean, I hope we get to see the receipts on the episode because I need to see if he actually shook on this or not. Did he shooketh? So Brittany says she's not going to fight it because she doesn't want to piss anyone, meaning Kyland, off. So she's not going to keep bringing this up. She says, for the purposes of him upstairs, Kyland, my comment is it was a misunderstanding. We now have clarity. Everything's fine. Sounds like she's putting out a freaking press release. But she says, I know what happened. I'm not going to rehash it anymore because I want to stay this week. And if I keep bringing it up, Kyland is going to campaign against me. So later in the conversation, Brittany shares that Kyland actually asked her to go around and talk to everyone and tell them that it was just a misunderstanding on her part about the deal. Oh my God. I just can't believe this guy this week. So Tiffany and Azza are like, Kyland is just thinking about himself. They tell Brittany, do and say whatever you want. You don't have to listen to him. But Brittany's afraid that she's going to go home if she doesn't do what Kyland wants because he'll start campaigning against her. It doesn't matter. The cookout is voting you out no matter what. Oh my God, it's so hard to watch. So Brittany says she's going to fight for her life to stay there. She thinks that she can get the votes to stay. She feels really good about it. She thinks it's either going to be a 5-3 vote or 7-1. And like, it could be either of those, but it would be for Brittany to leave unless something insane happens. So after this, Brittany goes around to tell everyone about the conversation that she had with Kylan. And she's saying, yeah, he told me to tell everyone that I misunderstood the deal and I had a lack of comprehension. I can't believe he said that to her. She's like, excuse me, I have a master's degree and I am a teacher. I think my comprehension's pretty good. So I gotta say, Kai is looking like a huge douche this week. I'm sorry, but he really is. Oof. All right. So then Azah was talking to the cameras at one point in the yacht club bedroom. And she says she's over the mind games. She's over it. She says, if I did not believe in what we all came together and said we were going to do, I would put him, meaning Kai, up on the block next week and get him out of here. She says, my trust with Kylan has been compromised. I feel like his actions are affecting us as the six. And she says, I don't want Kylan to win HOH ever again. Me neither, Azah. Me neither. It's just too much. Oh my God. It's taken years off my life. So Azah says Tiffany was right when she said that Kai changes when he's in power. But then Azah corrects herself. She's like, no, but I don't think that he changes when he's in power. I think this has been Kylan the whole time. Oof. She said he changes when he gets frazzled. Like, for instance, when Brittany picked him during the HOH competition, he went completely haywire. After that happened, from that moment on, he did not feel comfortable with me, Brittany, or Big D winning HOH. And that's why he kept picking her during the HOH competition. So Azah says Kylan also does not like to admit faults. He doesn't even acknowledge them. And she says, I almost regret drinking his Kool-Aid for as long as I did. Okay, so then later, Kai and Derek X are chatting in the HOH room, and this is the conversation that Tiffany was giving Kylan a heads up about earlier. DX wants to try and convince Kylan to keep Brittany this week. So Kylan asks DX pretty early on in the conversation, do you have a preference on the vote this week? And DX says, I see both sides of it, you know? Big D is the perfect pawn. If we keep him in this game, he's going all the way. He says anyone sitting next to Big D is probably going to go. And he says, on the other hand, with Brittany, I feel like I would be able to put some sort of a campaign together if I were up on the block against her. You know, I would have a chance to stay. So then Kylan says a bunch of gobbledygook. It's so hard at this point to just try and make sense of it. I'm sorry. I'm exhausted. Yeah. So then DX says, I got to talk to you about this. He says, coming into this week, I didn't have any concerns. I felt great. But it's funny that you've been saying you want to target Brittany because she's unpredictable. Because I feel like this week, you were unpredictable. Oh, DX is so candid. So he says, I didn't know where your head was at this week. Damn. He says, you put up Claire, you threw the power of veto. I feel like there wasn't a lot of transparency. Call him out. So then DX says, I'm concerned because usually you're only vague with someone if you don't trust them. So Kylan is telling DX, like, I wasn't trying to deceive you this week. I was still thinking and I was trying to figure out, and he's talking specifically about that stretch of time before the nomination ceremony. He was like, I was still thinking and trying to figure out a justification that would make sense for my nominations. And DX is like, it was so weird because I would feel like nervous because you weren't talking to me, and then I would talk to you and I would feel okay again, and then I would leave the room and be like, am I putting too much trust into Kai? Like, what's going on? And he admits he felt like he was kind of maybe being like gaslit. Ooh, the G word. Ooh, okay. So Kylan's reassuring DX, we're good. And he says, you're good for my game. I would not want you to leave. It wouldn't be good for me. I want to go to the end with a strong competitor. You know, I want to go to the end with a Paul, not with a Josh. If you're new here, he's talking about Big Brother 19 with Josh and Paul. But anyway, they have their 3-person alliance, the flop. So Kyland, DX, and Sarah Beth. So Kyland's saying, if it came down to the flop in the final 3 and it was up to me, I would take you to the final 2 over Sarah Beth. No effing way. Also, he wants both of them out. He wants to go to the end with the cookout. Duh. But anyway, that's what he's telling DX. I want to go to the end with you. So eventually, this conversation comes back around to talking about this week's vote. And DX says he's leaning towards keeping Brittany, but he does not want to go against Kyland if Kyland feels strongly one way or the other. So Kyland says he's leaning 75% towards Brittany going this week because he thinks that she would target him, which, yeah, she would. So, yeah, that's all that. My goodness. Meanwhile, throughout the evening, Claire, Tiffany, Alyssa, DX, they're all continuing to discuss this week's vote. Multiple conversations here, but I mean, it's all pretty much the same thing. So Claire clearly wants Brittany to stay, for sure. Alyssa seems interested, but she's also still really bitter about Brittany not keeping Christian last week. So that is something that she's also taking into consideration. Tiffany is being wishy-washy in these conversations. She's trying to play along and not reveal that there's no freaking way that she's flipping and voting Big D out. And Derek X, he is very pro Brittany staying at this point. So as always, Tiffany reports all of this back to Hannah, and Hannah and Tiffany are trying to come up with some excuses for why they don't want to flip the vote to keep Brittany. Because Brittany, honestly, is making a lot of really good arguments. It makes a lot of sense for Claire, Alyssa, and DX's games, for sure. So Tiffany and Hannah decide they're going to say that they don't want to flip unless Alyssa and Xavier are both on board, because if they flip this vote without them, then they'll be afraid that Alyssa and Xavier will get even closer with Sarah Beth and Kyland, and they don't want that. So that's going to be their thing that they're going to try and work with Derek X and Claire. So then Brittany continued her campaigning last night. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't at this point. It's not doing anything, because as long as the cookout is staying together, Brittany's going. So Brittany was also talking about how pissed she is that Kai is threatening her. All right, moving on to today. Kyland, Derek X, and Xavier all met up in the HOH room to discuss working together. I feel like they've been kicking around this 3-person thing, talking about it for weeks now without ever actually solidifying anything. Also, this is BS, because Xavier and Kyland want to take DX out next week. They're just covering their asses here just in case DX wins the HOH. And honestly, I don't think DX would make a move on those two if he were to win HOH. He would just go after like Derek F or something, because he wouldn't want to go after those two unless he had the coin flip power and he could do it anonymously. So, all right. Xavier says we got to look out for each other, the 3 of us. We are the 3 strongest remaining competitors, and if one of us goes, then the target on the other 2 is just going to get bigger. So they're all like, yeah, absolutely, like guy power, woo. So they talk about the vote this week, and DX is presenting his arguments for why Big D should go. He's the ultimate pawn. We'd have more of a chance to stay against Brittany, blah, blah, blah. It's the same stuff we've been hearing. But Xavier's saying no, like we should save him for a double eviction. We don't need to take out Big D right now. It's not a big deal. Like we can save that. Blah, blah. Right. So they're trying to move DX away from this potential flip. But yeah, the eviction is tomorrow. Brittany and Big D will be making the rounds today. And I'm pretty sure Big D is just planning on telling people, keep me if it benefits your game. He knows he's got the votes. And Brittany, she's doing her whole spiel. We've heard it so many times already. I'm S.H.I.E.L.D. I'll take people out for you. If I'm around, then hello. If I'm around, hi, 2 babies. If I'm around, then
I'm
you
not
have
a baby.
3 babies. You have 50% less chance of going up on the block because I will be taking one of those spots. So that's one of her big arguments. And yeah, that's that. So you best believe the cookout will also be working hard today to convince Claire and Derek X to vote out Brittany, not because they necessarily need their votes to pull this off, but they don't want to have to show their cards. Because if it turns into Claire and Derek X putting their foots down, their
collective foot.
I'm so tired. Putting their feet down and saying, like, no, we're voting for Brittany to stay, then Azah would probably have to vote for Brittany to go, which is not something that she wanted to do. And they're going to be showing their cards because all of the cookout is going to have to vote for Derek F to stay just to make sure it's absolutely going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see if they are able to convince Claire and Derek X. Not as worried about Alyssa because she's going to do what Xavier tells her to do.
Oh.
So thank you all so much for watching. We got an episode tonight, so we're going to be recapping that later if you guys want to check that out. And I want to thank all of our super chatters from today.
You forgot, didn't you?
No.
Oh.
Maybe. No. Oh, my pen is almost dead. I just want to make sure I get
it's like your
on
soul.
here. Yeah, right. Okay. Trisha C, thank you so much for the super chat. Nate Swisher, thank you so much for the super chat. Alex Paredes, thank you so much for the super chat. Yeah, Big Blue Couch.
Woo.
It was back last night. Actually, last night too, they spent a lot of time trying to figure out who the house guests would be on like different TV shows, movies, what breed of dog they would be, what kind of animal they would be. They did that for a long time yesterday. A long time.
It wasn't bad.
No, it was entertaining.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, especially when they were saying what animal Tiffany would be. And she was not happy with their choices. And she was like, F you, Alyssa. F you, DX. It was very funny. It was a good time. It was a nice break from the game. Laura Dalton, thank you so much for the super chat. I can't read your writing on this one.
Bifer the Hobbit.
Oh, Bifer the Hobbit. I hope we said your name right. Or is it Beefer the Hobbit?
Bifur.
It's a very fun name. Thank you so much for the super chat. We really appreciate you watching and supporting us. MJS Lawrence, thank you so much for the super chat. And they said, your cookbook arrives tomorrow. Yay!
Yeah.
Looking forward to trying one of your creations. I hope you try lots of them because
Thank you.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. Thank you so much. And if you guys want your own copy of our plant-based air fryer cookbook,
Invisible Wonder Woman.
it's killing me because there's like a few like right over there. But we have a link in the info below if you're interested. And if you already have a copy and you're loving it,
let us know.
Consider leaving a review on our Amazon page because it really helps us out.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the super chat. Indie Girl, thank you so much for the super chat. And Kevin Charles, thank you for the super chat. He said, Mom's not in the closet today. Oh, she was over there for sure.
I spent a lot of time in that closet today, but now I'm out.
Why? What were you doing?
Just now.
Oh, I thought you meant you were like cleaning in there or something.
No.
Oh, okay. What's your personal favorite recipe from the cookbook?
The shish kebabs.
Oh, that is definitely one of my top ones too.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have a few faves in the desserts. Also, the pretzel sticks, amazing.
Carrot cake muffins.
Yes. There's so many good ones. But
French
anyway,
toast.
yeah. Oh my God, the French toast, bread pudding.
Oh, the bread pudding. She couldn't stop talking about the bread pudding when we were writing it.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, this is heaven.
Yeah, right. All right, guys. I got to get some other stuff done before tonight's episode, so we will bid you adieu. Yeah, so thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for supporting us, and until next time, much love. See you later.